Can I retire at 55 with $1.1 million saved for retirement? That's what we're going to look at today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. We're going to go through each individual section of a Your Financial EKG, of a detailed financial plan, so you can see, can I retire at 55 with $1.1 million saved for retirement? I want you to take this information, put it to your own retirement plan, and ask yourself the same question. Can I retire at such and such age with such and such saved for retirement? Or are there things that I need to think about, I need to add to, I need to subtract from in my retirement planning? All right, you ready? Let's get to it. All right, let's look at the assets, because that's where we've got about $250,000 sitting in the bank earning zero. So we need at least 6 1/4 to not run out of money. So what if we repurpose some of that cash? So let's look at that. So now we have $100,000 in the bank, and we're going to repurpose $150,000 into a taxable brokerage account. But remember, the money that's in the bank, they want to keep conservative. So the money that we put in the taxable brokerage account needs to be conservative as well, because that's how they feel. Like, I don't want to push risk onto anybody. That's not my job. My job is to help people invest based on their risk tolerances and to give them recommendation. I might say, hey, you need to be a little bit more aggressive. You're 35 and you're investing like you're 60. But if you're 55 and going into retirement, every little penny counts. And so your risk capacity, meaning the ability for the portfolio to give you income and not deplete itself, and your risk tolerance, meaning how you feel about risk, they really need to mesh, okay? So we're gonna put $150,000 into the taxable brokerage account. We're also gonna give it a rate of return of 4%. Now, the reason we're using 4% because that's really conservative. Remember, I use 6% as a rate of return because that is 2% behind the market's historical average. The market has historically averaged 8%. That means you're correlated to the S&P 500, okay? So if you are younger, if you're watching this and you're in your 30s and 40s, you want to try to be correlated as closely as possible to the S&P 500, getting 8, 9, 10%, whatever the S&P is getting for that year. Could be negative 8, 9, 10%, right? Once you step into retirement, once you start to shift, because there's this shift where you go from accumulation to preservation and distribution. In their case, they're shifting their assets from growth and accumulation to now we're living off this money. It's about preservation and distribution, income. And so we're going to bring the projected rate of return down to 6%, and the money in the bank, we're going to put at 4%. And the reason we're doing that is because it's not about the money you make in retirement, but it's about the money you keep in retirement. And that is the most important thing. All right. So now let's go over to retirement. Remember, we needed 6 1/4 and they were out at 90. So if we add in $150,000, now we're out at 91, okay? What's our rate of return gonna be here? 6.36. So we still need a really good rate of return. We've got an extra year of income, okay? So we've got ourselves an extra year of income, but we still haven't got this money to 100. So what's something we can do? Obviously, we talked about reverse mortgages already. We talked about selling the house. Well, I can't project a reverse mortgage in this software, so let's sell the house. So let's go to 80. So at 80 years old, they'd have a home worth $2.4 million and about $312,000 in spendable assets. So what we need to do is we need to sell this house. We need to move into something else. We need to take the equity from this house and repurpose it into the plan. Now, I don't know what the real estate market's going to look like in 2048. Okay, I cannot tell you, but what we can do is we can do an assumption. So let's take $1.5 million and buy a house with it. So where's 2.4 million? 2,463. Let's subtract out $1.5 million because we're talking about California. So that leaves us $963,000. So let's take $900,000 as a round number in the year 2048. So we go to cash flows. We go to, let's add in, sell the house. We're going to do an annual one, so a one-time of $900,000. We're going to sell it in June of 2048. Okay? It's going to come from a taxable external source, and it's going to go into our cash flow account, which is just basically a taxable brokerage account. So we're going to save that. Let's go back to our retirement picture. And now look at this. At 100, we've got $442,000 and our projected rate of return is adequate. So let me show you what we did there. At 80, we influxed that $900,000. We sold the house, so it's not really worth $2.4 million now, it's worth $1.5 million. And what I would normally do within the Financial EKG is I would create a new scenario. I'd copy this information, but I would create a new scenario that says sold home. We'd put the new value of the home in there and we'd influx the cash. But because this is a YouTube video, I want to make it simple for you to watch. So the house is really worth 1.5 at this point. We've influxed 900,000 and boom, there we go. So then now let's go back to cash flows. And let's see if we decide let's not do 900,000 because that might be, let's just say we influx 500,000. Remember, it's 2.4 is what the house is worth. We still got to buy a house in California. It's a high real estate market right there in San Francisco. So let's just do 500,000. We net 500,000 from selling and buying, selling, moving, all that. What does that do for us? Still, we run out at 100 with $29,000. So even then, we can still sell our house we can buy a house for more, right? Have less equity to influx into the portfolio, and we're still doing okay. Now, let's go back to, let's take out selling the house because we need to take that out of the plan, all right? And let's go to market. Let's look at what this would do based on some market projections. So here's our projection over here, okay, earning the 5.2 and the 6% rate of return. And then this is the market comparison. And so what I want to do is look at some historical averages. I want to say what would happen if we had the year 2000. So in the year 2000, we had a unique situation where in 2000, 2001, and 2002, the market went down for 3 straight years. That's called sequence of return risk. Sequence of return risk is the biggest risk to your retirement. And that risk is this. You step into retirement and immediately, or in the short term, the market falls 10, 20, or 30%. And you're using your retirement investments for income. And so you're taking money out of an investment that's going down. And then the next year, the market does the same thing. And you're taking income out of your investments and the market's going down and you haven't got the Social Security yet, or you might not have a pension. And so what that does is that turns your retirement investing accounts into a depreciating asset. So we got to have a plan for sequence of return risk. So we look at this for them and we say, hey, this is the worst thing that could happen. The lost decade, the worst decade we've had in like 100 years. If this happens, you're out of money in 10 years. Right? We need to have a plan for that. We need to have a plan if this were to happen. Now let's go to 1968. I've been using 1968 a lot because that really kind of mirrors where we're at today. We're in this slow recessionary environment with inflation that's up. And really it took from about 1968 to 1982 to kind of calm inflation. Volcker had to put the pedal to the metal and raise interest rates, and that really brought inflation down. Can we do that right now? I don't know. So let's look at what happened over that 14-year period and compare that to our portfolio. So if we look from 1968 on, now we're out of money at 69. So when we start putting some historical perspectives on this money, we run into some interesting situations. And so as an advisor, I might be looking at this and having a conversation like, hey guys, we've really got to be delicate about this. Maybe you are retiring a little early. Maybe we don't need to spend $20,000 every year for 20 years for travel overseas. Maybe you do it every other year. Are there some things that we can adjust? And there are, and we're going to go through that with them. But you need to be thinking about that for your financial plan, which is why you need a financial EKG. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, all the information is in the description below. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you. God bless. Bye-bye.